All right, I'd like to welcome everybody today. Please put your speakers on mute for now. And do we have any visitors? Apparently not. Anybody have any fishing reports? Not either. How about education? Jim Guerra there? You there? Not much going on, can't imagine. Treasurer, how about Steve Luckich? Betting zero here. Membership.
Al, you're on mute.
I'm ready to go to press with our pamphlets. I'm going to publish 150 of them. That should get us through next year. Then I'm going to change some wording in it to reflect the celebration of our 50th year. And we'll run probably another 150 then the following year. So I'm ready to go to press. It's been approved. I've got a copy the guy is going to print it for us. Sent me. It looks pretty good, I think. So I'm going to go ahead and get it printed.
Thank you, Al.
Okay.
Ways and Means, Jerry, you there? All right, outings. We have nothing planned. I was
Dan.
talking.
Jerry's here. Sorry.
Yeah,
Jerry?
I'm here. Yeah, I'm here. Nothing to report.
All right. For outings. I'm looking at possibly putting together something at Bush Wildlife, which will tie in real well with today's topic. And I talked to the gal out there. There's a new director out there in charge of the St. Louis area. We might put something together for January, February. So that's just rough. We'll see. Otherwise, programs. How about anything else coming up anytime soon? Next meeting? Dave? I don't see Dave. All right.
Lost Dave, I guess.
And
Hey,
I got last.
Oh, here he is. Here he is. He's coming back.
That's Steve Anthony. We got some programs put together. You just haven't picked out which one they're going to run. He'll get that to you, I'm sure.
Okay.
If he wants to use it. It's if Dave was still going to use it or not. We weren't sure. But he has a number of programs, that we got planned.
All right. And then Steve, anything else?
No, wish you guys were all down here. I wish it was a normal year. But
Yeah, really.
we're having a good time.
All right,
So
David,
far-
you want to introduce our speaker today, David?
Yeah, our guest today is Denise Otto, and she's here from MDC. She's a fisheries management biologist for the St. Louis Regional Office. She heads the local office, and then Tracy Boaz, who is also on the Zoom, is also with MDC. And in order to get this thing done timely, while we still have early, you know, the program, the winter trout program just started November 1st. So in order to get that information out timely, we decided to do the program this month. And so I'm putting it together. I put together a program on the winter trout program, and then Denise is going to be here to respond to any questions. Now, I want to tell you that Denise has been with MDC for a while, but this is a new position for her. So we need to go gentle on her. Don't put any big stumpers on her because she's doing this out of the kindness of her heart for us. And with that, I'm going to go ahead and get started here. If I can figure out which screen I'm on. Can you guys see anything?
Not
No.
yet.
Okay. Let's try. Yeah, let's try it this way. Oh, come on. There we go. How's that?
Still not showing up. Yeah. Are you using the green share screen button in the bottom middle?
Yeah, I thought so. And I'm sharing. Oh, let me complete that task.
There it
How's
goes.
that?
It's starting now.
Okay, good. And hopefully that's full screen. So the St. Louis area winter trout program. And by the way, Denise gave me some great pamphlets, and these are publicly available, and that's primarily what I took this from. But if anybody wants, I have a short stack of them. Either I'll put them on the table when we get back together, or if you let me know by emailing me, I will mail you one of these. So the winter trout program, well, there we go. It started in 1989 in St. Louis City as an urban fishing program, and then expanded through the years to out here into the county and even out into St. Charles County. They stock over 38,000 trout every year, and it's get there in a minute. Rainbow trout is from MDC Fisheries. Average length 10 to 12 inches. Pretty nice fish. Some are over 18. It runs from November 1st to February 28th or 29th in a leap year. And most lakes are stocked twice a month. However, the catch and release lakes are stocked less often. The catch and release, and I'll go through which ones are catch and release, but the catch and release lakes, from what I could gather, are some more perhaps affluent neighborhoods like Kirkwood and all that. I meant more affluent neighborhoods like Kirkwood tend to be catch and release. And then the stocking dates aren't announced in advance, but it's immediately on the hotline. So if you call, you can find out where they stocked most recently. Anybody between 16 and 64, just like anywhere else, you got to have a valid Missouri fishing permit, and you got to have a trout permit to harvest. If you're not going to keep, if you're just going to catch and release, you don't need the trout permit. And then you cannot use the natural or scented baits as chum, and you'll find that in the catch and release areas, you can only use artificial lures. So catch and release only lakes from November to January 31st. After January 31st, it's you can harvest anywhere. And you can see the catch and release parks are Tillis, Jefferson Lake, Walker Lake, which is in the Kirkwood Park, Wild Acres, and out at Bush Lakes, just two of them, 28 and 21. The other three that we'll talk about are harvest anytime. And these catch and release after January 31st, you can harvest there too if you can. The harvest lakes are Sussin. I guess there's 3 lakes there, 1, 2, and 3. And then Carondelet, and then Bush, and then Vlasis. I'm not familiar with how you pronounce that, but I'll show you where that is too. The limits are 8 fish. Any any species after you have harvested 4 trout, kept 4 trout in your possession, you can't fish anymore. Here are, and they have a map on the inside of this winter trout program pamphlet, but I took and superimposed it on the Google Maps because I found it more precise. I did, particularly these ones that are in the North City area. I don't know those areas well, so I had to, I had to look them up, and in some cases, the ponds or lakes aren't on Google Maps. So I had to go look at some aerial photography and figure out where they were. And I just want to run through these kind of quickly. I've just picked an order: 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and 11. And we'll run through these kind of quick. And I will make this available to anyone. The January Wabash Park, I gave GPS coordinates or topo coordinates for, I hit the spot with Google, and that's what Google tells me that is. I also looked up addresses for each of them. January Wabash is in northern, I think it's northern Ferguson. You can harvest anytime. It looked like an interesting place. It's funny because the park is actually at the corner there of Florissant and January, and then it doesn't designate that the park is the park extends onto where the lake is, but the lake is immediately adjacent, and in fact, there's a high school right there as well. So it looks like a fairly large lake. The next one, Keeneman Park Lake, and that's off of Halls Ferry, and the cross street is Lucas and Hunt. It's in Jennings. It's a catch and release. And there again, I don't know much about the park. Anybody has any questions or is interested in, or knows something about some of these, I'd love to get some local knowledge. O'Fallon Park Lake, this is up on the near Calvary, or rather Bell Fountain Cemetery, right off 71. Again, a nice large lake, and it's harvest anytime. The Jefferson Lake, I see people fishing at this lake at the corner of South Kings Highway and 64 all the time. And I thought that was Jefferson Lake, and obviously I was wrong. It's the one just north of that. And that's a big catch and release lake. The Boathouse Lake at Carondelet Park, there's 2 lakes. It's the larger of the 2 there by the boathouse, more towards the central part of Carondelet Park. It also is harvest anytime. Susson has 3 lakes. It looks like 4, but 2 of them are joined. And that's down near Quail Creek, right off of Wells Road, Tesson Ferry. And it's also, looks like it's very convenient, and it's harvest anytime. The Wild Acres is up in Overland, and it's right here at the corner, Ashby and Dorset, I guess, and or Midland, Ashby and Midland. And that's a catch and release lake. Very convenient. Tillis Park, of course, we know where that is. We have meetings there. The next one is Walker. Walker is one of is there at the Kirkwood Park, Kirkwood's on South Geyer. And the lake isn't, I don't think it's very convenient, from the parking area. But I'm sure it's well stocked. Glasses Park, that is just north of Manchester in Baldwin. And I tried to make these maps so that you could kind of get a feel for what the, if you're somewhat familiar with the area, where Bomarito and J. Wolf Toyota is and all that. Bush conservation, and I detailed that. And as I said, I'm happy to shoot this PowerPoint to anybody. There's a whole bunch of lakes and ponds out there, as you guys know, and I'm not as familiar with the places I should be. I tried to color code this one. The three lakes, 3, 22, and 23 are harvest anytime, and the catch and release are 21 through, or rather 21 and 28. And I hope that Denise is on the call and can answer some questions for us if we can turn her on. Jake, can you help me out? I see John Stoiterman there. It's good to see you, John. I haven't seen you in a while, man.
So Denise should be off mute. Denise, you there?
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, excellent. So before I take any questions, though, I wanted to add a couple of things to what Dave had said in his PowerPoint. And one of them that was not mentioned in the catch and release, it's fairly new, is in Union City Park down in Union. So if anybody gets down to that neck of the woods, you can catch and release there. And just to clarify on the regulation, that once you have caught your 4 trout, if you intend to keep them, it's not that you cannot continue to fish for more trout and release. You cannot continue to fish for any other species of fish either. You're done fishing once you have 4 trout in your possession. So the public gets confused with that one sometimes. So I just wanted to clarify. I'm sure you guys probably know, but just wanted to throw it out there.
There was Jefferson Lake was going to be, there was going to be some work done on it, and I guess that's been delayed.
It's been delayed, and we were not going to stock there because of the potential renovation, but the delay allowed us to go ahead and stock this winter.
And is the Union City Lake, is that catch and release, or is that harvest anytime?
Yes, it is catch and release.
Okay.
And if anybody, Dave, if you have any questions, I know on some of them you were talking about, it looks like a pretty decent sized lake. If anybody has any questions about the size of any of the lakes that you mentioned, I could let you know how many acres those are.
Are they all currently stocked?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Everybody got stocked on November 3rd, with the exception of Lake 28 at Bush. It got stocked on November 4th.
Okay.
So go get them.
Is that it?
So what is it? What is the acreage on 28?
Oh, on oh shoot, on 28. I was looking at the the urban fishing program lakes. 28 off the top of my head, without knowing for sure, I'm gonna say it's probably about 5 acres, give or take.
So we had a pretty warm week before today. How will that affect the trout in these lakes if they're not being like spring fed?
Well, we took temperatures. We have to take temperatures about 2 weeks before we stock to make sure that the lakes are ready to receive trout. And whenever I took temperatures on October 16th, it was 62 degrees. We had some lake issues on Lake 7 out at Bush Tuesday of this week, and it was 59 degrees. So even though it's been warm, the lake temperatures are still well below what trout need to be happy.
Mhm, yeah.
Because there's been years within the past 3 years we've had to delay, like you mentioned, we've had to delay the initial trout stocking because water temperatures were just simply too warm.
Yeah, I fished there Sunday and did okay. We fished along that, I guess it's the berm, whatever that is. It was okay.
Good.
Jerry, what kind of lure do you use? What kind of fly do you use?
I used a micro woolly bugger. In other words, instead of tying your standard six or eight size hook, I tied a smaller hook, about 12, in marabou, and they seem to work pretty good with that fly. So
So you think leeches and woolly buggers and
Yeah.
getting them down. You go,
well, that Sunday it wasn't getting them down. It really wasn't. It was actually kind of bringing them in, maybe a couple feet under the water. They weren't down because I started fishing deep and wasn't doing anything as I brought it up, the fly up further in the water column. It seemed to be more effective.
Jerry, did you find the fish were in pods?
I don't know. I don't think I can judge that. I don't know. I didn't see that. I mean,
A lot of
Uh,
times when they're on top of the water, you'll see pods of trout. And
yeah,
I'm
I
just
didn't see
wondering-
that. Yeah, I didn't see that, Al. No, but it seemed like they were further up. They weren't real deep because I had some weighted woolly buggers and some beatheads, so they were weighted pretty good, and I didn't do anything on those whatsoever. So, but it was still a nice day. It was fun. So the only thing you got to watch for along that berm, or what do you want to call it there, is they've got really heavy, well, heavy, but large rocks. So as you were kind of in a weed area where it's raised up. As you walk down towards by the water, you just be careful because there's some big rocks there. So anyways, that's my report.
Mhm.
And the thing to remember with trout is when we stock, we also, one of the questions that Dave had mentioned that the group had was, do we stock anything else? And the answer is yes. Not in all of the lakes that were mentioned, included in the winter trout program, but in the urban fishing program lakes, we do stock channel catfish March through September as well, usually every 2 weeks. Now, when catfish are first stocked, it takes them a little while. They get almost car sick from the ride. They withhold food. They don't travel well, so they have to kind of acclimate a little bit before they're ready to eat. But trout will come right off that truck ready to go. So as soon as those fish go in the water, those fishermen will be getting after them, and they will bite.
Do they change locations of where they put the trout in?
Usually no. Usually it's when one particular place, wherever you've got a firm surface that can support that stocking truck, is where they will put those trout in.
Because Tom Hargrove, who owns Hargrove Fly Shop, I saw him last week. I stopped at his shop, and we were just kind of joking around. He said, "Where they dump those fish in is where you want to fish."
Well, what was funny is that I got a request this week where they wanted us to stock the fish on one side of the lake, and then they want us to drive around and stock them on the other side of the lake. And I pointed out the fact to him that they will swim over there. They will disperse.
Mhm.
And so, yeah, we only put them in one spot.
Okay.
Not it, other than the catfish, are there other species like panfish and bass anywhere?
Usually, no. Typically, in a lot of the lakes that we have, because of the regulations that are on them, there's already too many bass already. So we typically don't stock bass. We will actually take them from one lake and put them into another, just trying to move them around to reduce their numbers, to improve their growth rates. But occasionally, we will stock some of these lakes with panfish, like hybrid sunfish or red ears or something like that for an event, if there's a special event going on there, or if the hatchery says they have a surplus, then we'll go ahead and receive those fish and put them in these ponds. But the more regular stockings are going to come from channel catfish in the trout.
Well, isn't 31 and 32 a catch and release bass?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, it's good fishing there.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah, and if you guys go out to bush, you might hear some chatter. We had a fish kill on Lake 7. It's been getting a lot of attention. So if you go out to bush and you're out there trout fishing, it was a natural kill. I investigated it. It was just the result of the lake turning over. So there's really not much. It doesn't look good. It doesn't smell good, but it was a natural kill, and those are things that just can happen from time to time.
Do you get in there and gather those fish and get them out?
I had planned to, but I was not able to. But a lot of times we do try to get in there because it just aesthetics, smell for visitors, and it continues to just generate calls. Like this happened last week, and we're still getting calls this week. So for a variety of reasons, we do try to get those fish out whenever we can.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have problems with any invasive species?
Well, I mean, if you look at Creve Coeur, we've got Asian carp coming out of our ears in Creve Coeur. So sure. I mean, in floodplain lakes, we do have big head and Asian carp in there. In some of the ones that are less connected to floodplains and rivers, then we don't have quite the problem there. But in some places, river fish, of course, rough fish cause problems for game fish. So it just kind of depends on what the goal is for the lake. But I would say that the biggest problem that we have is with Asian carp.
Yeah.
And we're actually, when you mentioned Creve Coeur, we're actually in the planning phase with the Corps of Engineers, U.S. Geological Survey, U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service to design a barrier project to keep Asian carp from coming back in again. We know we completed the project. We know we can remove them with a variety of techniques. Everybody knows that we got 119 tons of Asian carp out of Creve Coeur Lake a couple of years ago. So we know we can get them out. That was the big challenge. We didn't even know if we had the ability to get the fish out. Now we know we can. So now we're in the second phase of trying to figure out how to keep them from getting in again. Obviously, we know in the meantime they've gotten back in, and that's okay. But we are moving to the second phase to try to make sure that we partner with those other agencies to come up with something that will keep them out.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Easier said than done.
A dike or something? Is that what you're?
Oh my gosh. No, it's not as simple as that. There's things from, different kinds of gates to bubblers, to acoustics, and a combination of everything thereafter. Because this is kind of uncharted territory for a lot of folks that are trying to figure out how to keep these fish out. We know that they don't like acoustics. When we use sound in Creve Coeur Lake, we use sound and electricity primarily, and native fish didn't give two hoots about the acoustics. It did not bother them at all. But it split the Asian carp and the native fish. Just it spliced them out almost as neatly as you could possibly imagine. So we learned a lot that Asian carp really respond well to using acoustics, and yet, it was a way to splice out those native fish, so we didn't have a lot of native fish in our bycatch.
Yeah.
Hey, Denise, are you working underneath Julianne Stone now?
Am I working with Julie Stone?
Yes.
Yeah, she's our new regional administrator.
spoke to her last week. Nice lady. We're thinking about having her give a talk to us sometime too. So
Oh, yeah. She's trying to get up to speed on all things MDC. She's had a very big and busy last year with us. So with the reorganization, she's a smart girl. I like her a whole lot.
I'm frozen up. I think.
Another thing I did want to mention, I'm just going to throw this out here just to disappoint you right up front, because it's coming. So the trout were reduced by 20% this year. And we made the decision in St. Louis region to love all of our children equally. So we just took a 20% reduction across the board. So all lakes will get a 20% reduction. And that's in part from Roaring River being down for 2 years and about a third of Bennett being down. And so what we're doing is trying to rebuild our hatchery system to improve dissolved oxygen systems and to try to keep flood debris. We're trying to be able to just design them in a way where we don't go through the same problems we go through every time it floods. So what this means is that the next to be slated for renovation will be Bennett Springs, and then Montauk will be after that. Now, I say that understanding that this is state government, and when these things will happen and when they will be completed, of course, is anybody's guess, but we're anticipating that as our hatchery systems get renovated, that this reduction in trout may persist into the future until we're back to full capacity and have the full ability to raise fish like we have in the past.
Has there been any discussion to adding additional lakes to the program?
So on the coattails of what I just said, I don't want to add any. If we would have to further reduce others or not stock to the levels that we would want to ensure that anglers will be happy. But if down the road we had another CAP member, and whenever I say CAP member, a lot of these non-owned MDC lakes are managed by MDC through a community assistance program agreement that we have with local municipalities, that they own the lake and we manage the fishery. So if we had another partner that we thought would be another great CAP partner, then we could do that. And I could see those being places that we could then stock trout in the future, especially if they're in places that we don't already stock trout locally, to give people more close to home fishing. Because as you guys know, if we didn't stock this here, we would be asking St. Louis region folks to drive hours to the nearest hatchery. And so we're trying to really provide close to home fishing opportunities. And if we can do that through another partnership agreement, then of course that would be something that MDC would want to look at. Nothing? You guys are being easy on me tonight. And I know a lot of you already know me. You've known me for years through the fishing program, and the fishing program is still alive and well. It's just been transferred over to education division. I don't do the program anymore. Now I'm talking to you guys about the winter trout program instead of the Discover Nature fishing program.
That's good.
So we just lost Dave. He's trying to get back in now. So anybody else have any additional questions for our speaker?
What was the number for the stocking again that you could call?
Yeah, so it's 636 300 9651. And as soon as we either see the fish go in or we stock them ourselves, sometimes we assist the stocking trucks, or the stocking, the hatchery folks tell us that the fish are in, then that hotline is immediately updated that day. And it's where we stocked and how many we stocked in that particular lake.
Right.
So like, for instance, we just stocked almost 2,000 fish in Lake 28.
Yeah, I call that number. I'd heard that. It's pretty neat when you could just call and it gives you the number of fish per lake. So
Mm-hmm. And sometimes they call and say, well, last year it was 1,960. Now it's only 1,940. I say, well, you're going to have to be better this year then, because there's 20 less fish. It's crazy how well they will remember those numbers. That stocking hotline is utilized a bunch. Do you guys have any other questions about any other species that are stocked out at Bush that you might want to go and chase after? Because we've got these cards, and like I sent Dave the brochures, we have these just index cards, the species and the lakes that they're in out at Bush, and then any kind of, special regulations that are on any of the lakes. So if you guys would be interested in those, if you wanted to go after hybrid striped bass or muskie or something like that, there's those opportunities that exist at Bush as well.
is that information also at the main area at Bush's Wildlife?
Well, it is, but right now the office is closed due to COVID. But in a perfect world scenario, you could come in to the front desk and ask for this information. But like I said, I mailed Dave all those brochures. If you guys wanted anything else, I'd be happy to mail that.
Okay.
I have a question. Tony Thorpe out of University of Missouri has a lake monitoring program, which I'm involved in. But do you monitor any of the lakes that you just discussed through his program for water quality? They take samples. They just track numerous lakes in Missouri.
Right, and that's a great question, and that's one of the things that I'll still have to get to the bottom of. I know some of the lakes that I used to manage, like Lincoln Lake, and they would go up to Whiteside Lake. I know that there were several of the lakes that I used to manage that were monitored, and I actually used some of that data to try to figure out growth rates on some of the wondering about bass populations in Lincoln Lake up in Quiver River State Park. Now, as far as the ones that I've just recently inherited from Kevin, I don't know. I can't answer right now which ones that I'm inheriting that are monitored, but I would imagine that he also had a handful that were monitored as well.
Okay.
Is there something in particular? Is there any kind of data you're looking for that I could provide to you, sir?
Well, when we monitor, they take water samples and analyze them for quality of the water,
Right.
and the clarity of the water.
Mm-hmm.
And temperature, and I guess I do a temperature profile on the lake out in the middle where it's deep.
Yep.
That's I was just curious on I guess the clarity of the lakes I'd be interested in.
Yeah, we take that when we electrofish, but I know on some of them we keep a closer pulse on it. Like, for instance, Lake 35 out at Bush that has muskie in it. We're very interested to know where essentially the thermocline for those muskie is. Where's the temperature and the oxygen just right for those guys? And that was determined that when you get into the heat of the summer, you compress those muskie down into about 18 inches of water is where the porridge is just right for them. So it's a tough condition for them to survive here in a lake like Lake 35, but we're able to do it and provide that angling opportunity. But yeah, I mean, everything from total dissolved solids and alkalinity and dissolved oxygen and all those things, those reports have served me well whenever I'm trying to figure out things about a lake that the fish are telling me something's going on, and that's just another piece of data that I can pull in there and try to determine what's going on.
Got it. I found in lakes, dissolved oxygen doesn't work too well because if you take surface samples, it doesn't change very much. But it'd be interesting if you could take samples deep in the lake and monitor the oxygen level.
Right.
I haven't figured out how to do that yet.
Well, and we do that. And we actually, whenever I mentioned that fish kill out at Lake 7 earlier in the call, it was a little bit of a head scratcher because it was all species, all sizes. And usually when that's the case, it's either an oxygen issue or it's pollution. And pollution events are very rare, especially on conservation area lakes. And so we got out there and we did a dissolved oxygen profile, and at the surface, it was the dissolved oxygen was in the nines. And as you went down all the way to the bottom, 17 feet down, it was in the fives. And so
Oh, yeah.
that told me, we kind of suspected that it had turned over, but that told me that it was more evidence that it turned over, because when you go down 17 feet down to the bottom, if you have a lake that is stratified into layers, you would expect to have oxygen readings at the bottom in the 1s or 2s. So the fact that it was 5 all the way 17 feet down told me that that lake had turned over.
Okay.
Is Dave back? There's Dave. There you are.
Well, thank you so much, Denise. We really appreciate your taking the time to do this with us. How's the you're doing something with hunting this week or the last couple of weeks? Or am I mistaken?
No, it's so this weekend's the most wonderful time of the year for some people. It's opening weekend of firearm season. So whether you're a fish head like me or a tree hugger or whatever your flavor of passion is for MDC this weekend, it's all about deer. So a large portion of the entire MDC staff will be out at CWD check stations this year. And it's a little different because of COVID, because we don't want to concentrate people. And MDC firmly believes people are more important than than anything we do. We want to keep people safe. It's actually voluntary this year. So folks can bring their deer to us, but it's not mandatory like it's been in years past. So, but we don't want to discourage anybody. If anybody wants to get their deer tested and they're concerned, by all means, bring it to us. Or we have, we've got refrigerated coolers around the area where you can drop the head off, or you can bring it to an MDC office, later on during the season if you wanted to do that. Or there's a variety of options. But yeah, that's what we'll be doing this weekend.
Okay.
Denise, how'd the elk hunt go?
I don't know. I can look into it and send Dave my my information that I found, and he can get it to you if that's okay.
I'll do that, Dan.
How did the elk hunt go? I do know that they caught at least one of the poachers that they thought was shooting elk down there. So hopefully that will cease.
Okay. Well, I think that's our program for tonight. We're going to have, I hope Al has something cooked up for early in December, and we'll get that out. He's done such a spectacular job. Made my life easy. But he and Steve. So I think with that, we can sign off for tonight.
All right, you guys need anything else, you know where to find me. I'm happy to chat with you guys anytime.
Thank you, Denise.
Thank you.
You bet.
Thank you.
Take care. Stay healthy.